If you've been paying any attention to AI, it feels like this constant, incredible wave of invention, right? But that's changing. The era of just pure, unadulterated creation, I think it's giving way to something, well, a lot more competitive.
Yeah, that initial gold rush where it felt like anyone could just jump in and stake a claim, that's over. The big players are here, they're drawing lines in the sand, and the real fight, the fight for what comes next, is just getting started. So, what does come after the rush? This is what comes next, the AI wars. And look, this isn't one single conflict. Think of it more like a bunch of interconnected battles all happening at the same time on totally different fronts. We're talking from the halls of government to the actual silicon in our computers, all the way down to the code that's, well, it's probably going to be running our lives pretty soon.
So let's dive into our first battleground. And it's a big one. It's political. It's the fight over who gets to write the rules. Right now, in the United States, there is this massive tug-of-war happening over who gets to regulate AI. And believe me, the outcome here is going to shape literally everything else. Okay, so what we're seeing is this fundamental clash of ideas. On one side, you've got the big tech companies and their advocates. They are pushing hard for one single national set of rules. Their argument is pretty simple. If every state has its own laws, it'll just grind innovation to a halt and put the US way behind its global competitors. But on the other side, you've got the states pushing back, and pushing back hard. They're saying, hey, we need to protect our citizens right now from very real threats. We're talking deep fakes, child safety, and bias in healthcare. They want local control.
And this isn't just some dry, abstract policy debate. Listen to this quote from South Carolina Representative Brandon Guffey. He calls the idea of the federal government taking over one of the most detrimental things of my entire generation. That really captures the passion here, right? For him and for this coalition of over 270 state lawmakers from both parties, this isn't just about policy. They see giving up that local control as a real generational threat to safety and to democracy itself. And you better believe there is serious money behind this push for federal control. I mean, make no mistake. One group, an advocacy group called Build American AI, has dropped $10 million on a campaign to get that single national framework. That just shows you the kind of financial firepower being thrown around to influence a debate that's going to define the rules for AI for decades. Okay, let's shift gears. Our next battleground is the hardware itself, the actual physical engine that drives all of this AI. This is a high-stakes arms race for the computer chips that power every single large language model on the planet. For years, one name has just completely dominated this space: NVIDIA. I mean, look at these numbers. Over $57 billion in revenue, a mind-blowing 62% year-over-year growth. They're GPUs. They're not just chips. They are the absolute bedrock of the entire AI revolution. But here's the thing. When you have a monopoly, your biggest customers, they get a little nervous, right? So what happens when a company like Meta, one of the absolute biggest AI players in the world, starts to think, maybe we should look at some other options? Well, that's exactly what's happening right now. And the main alternative they're looking at? Google's Tensor Processing Units, or TPUs. Now, the key difference here really comes down to specialization. Think of NVIDIA's GPUs as these super flexible, all-purpose workhorses. They can do anything, and they have this massive software ecosystem behind them. Google's TPUs, on the other hand, are custom-built just for AI. They're specialists. And for certain jobs, that means they can offer way better performance and be more cost-effective, all because the hardware and the software were designed together from the ground up. And the stakes here? They could not be higher. When reports came out that Meta was even thinking about a multi-billion-dollar deal for Google's TPUs, it sent shockwaves through the market. Seriously, if Google can actually prove that its TPUs are a real, viable alternative for the world's biggest AI companies, some analysts believe its parent company, Alphabet, could be on a path to a $4 trillion valuation. This is not just a tech rivalry. This is a fight that could completely reshape the financial map of big tech. All right, let's bring this whole conflict down to a much more personal level. The third battleground is the race to build the AI agent that's going to act for you, the thing that will manage your digital life. And what we're seeing are two clashing visions for what that future even looks like. A future that's really a battle for both your attention and your trust. First up, you've got Microsoft's approach. They've built an agent called Farah 7B, and its whole philosophy is centered on this idea of pixel sovereignty. Basically, it works by seeing what's on your screen and then taking actions for you, clicking, typing, right on your PC. The really crucial part is that your data isn't being shipped off to the cloud, it stays local. And the agent is designed to stop and ask for your permission at key moments. It's a vision that's all about privacy, security, and you being in control.
And then you have the vision from OpenAI's Sam Altman. He's working on a new AI device, and his goal is pretty much the exact opposite of what we're used to. Instead of more digital noise, he wants to create a feeling of serenity. He literally described it as being like sitting in the most beautiful cabin by a lake. It's this incredibly ambitious idea of an all-knowing companion that somehow makes you feel less stressed. Wild, right? But here's where that serene vision crashes into a very difficult reality. According to internal data that's been reported, an estimated 3 million OpenAI users are showing signs of serious mental health emergencies. It's just a stark, sobering reminder that as these systems get woven deeper into our lives, the responsibility for user safety is absolutely immense. And there's this huge tension between those ambitious goals and just platform well-being. And on top of all that, OpenAI is fighting legal battles on every front. You've got Elon Musk suing them, saying they've strayed from their original nonprofit mission. You've got the New York Times claiming massive copyright theft. And then there's a really devastating product safety lawsuit from parents. Each one of these is a major challenge to their tech and their entire business model.
Okay, so let's zoom out again. We've talked about companies. Let's talk about countries, the global stage. The competition for AI dominance is a huge geopolitical game, with different parts of the world taking completely different approaches. And all the while, there's this hidden war being fought on the cyber front lines.
What we're seeing is this really clear strategic split. The U.S. seems to be heading towards a lighter touch on federal rules, but combining that with these massive government-funded moonshot projects, like something called the Genesis mission, to just pour fuel on AI research. Meanwhile, a lot of players in Asia are taking a totally different path. They're embracing open source models, they're building AI that understands local languages and cultures, and they're forming these government-led partnerships to share resources and knowledge.
But while all these nations are competing to lead, there's a much darker side to this whole race. AI is being weaponized. I'm talking about malicious LLMs, like one called WormGPT. This stuff isn't just an experiment anymore. It's being sold as a commercial product. It's got tiered pricing, slick dashboards, all designed to let cybercriminals easily create super sophisticated phishing scams and malware. This is the invisible frontline of the AI wars, and it's happening right now.
So, okay, we've covered battles over policy, over hardware, personal agents, and global power. But why does any of this really matter to you day to day? Well, because when you boil it all down, every single one of these fights is really about three things. Three things that are intensely personal to all of us. First up, the battlefield is your data. Simple as that. The fight over the rules, the fight over how these AI agents are designed, all of it will decide who owns, who controls, and who gets to profit from your personal information. Every click you make, every word you say.
Second, the prize is your attention. This whole race to build better chips and create more powerful AI assistants, it's a war for your engagement. Companies are locked in a battle to create the services that will capture and hold your focus in what is an incredibly crowded digital world.
And finally, the ultimate risk here is your trust. As these systems start making decisions about our health, our money, our safety, the outcome of all these battles, from security to policy, is going to determine whether we can actually trust the AI that's being woven into the very fabric of our society. Look, we are all living on these battlefields now, whether we realize it or not. And that brings us to the final and maybe the most critical question you should be asking yourself. In this global multi-front war for the future of AI, who is fighting for you?